you're just trying to come up with good ways of bumping people off. Like that is again one of the pleasures. Like it's very therapeutic, actually. I have fallen over the dog lots of times.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. The dog is really clumsy, as am I. You're talking doubles, men's doubles, crusty old men, like lobbing each other.
Crusty old men lobbing each other will be the clip.
So I don't love the term cozy crime, but I accept it. I never assumed for a moment that I could write, proper crime novels. I have a lot of respect for crime writers. I've always read crime fiction. So I've always written and I've always read. I actually think I'm better qualified than anyone to write a novel.
Hello, welcome to another exciting episode of Books on the Beach. My guest today, I think, is the perfect man to talk to us about writing a cozy crime novel. As D.I. Jack Mooney in Death in Paradise, he solved around 30 murders. He's also been superhero Thermo Man, so he knows a thing or two about coming to your rescue, right? And of course, as the much-loved Father Dougal, he was pretty much oblivious to any crimes. He's going to talk to us today about his third novel, but the first in a brand new series called A Plot to Die For. And as far as I'm concerned, Ardal O'Hanlon is a guest to die for. Welcome to Books on the Beach.
Thanks, pleasure to be here.
First of all, how's your ankle?
My ankle is actually on the mend.
Good.
I had a little mishap a couple of months ago on the tennis court.
Oh, so it was tennis, because I've read on the internet, tennis was one thing. I read that you fell over a dog lead, and I thought, is this because you like making shit up in interviews?
Well, yeah, sort of. I'm going to be absolutely truthful in this interview. Don't worry. No, I was about to go on tour. I was about to resume my stand-up tour, Not Himself, in the month of March, and I did, I usually start my show with a bit of dancing. Quite sensational dancing, if I say so myself.
Okay.
And I couldn't do that because of my ankle was in a brace. And I just didn't think tennis was very funny or convincing or anything else. So I made up some stupid story about falling over the dog. I have fallen over the dog lots of times.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. The dog is really clumsy, as am I.
I didn't know you're decent at tennis then.
Well, I think I'm brilliant at tennis.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. In my head, I am sensational. But I play at a decent level. I play a league, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. But not like professional.
But I'm just thinking you're away a lot, aren't you?
I'm away a lot, yeah.
So you must miss a few games.
Yeah, I do. But I try and plan my year around
tennis, do you?
Tennis tournaments. Now, you're talking doubles, men's doubles, crusty old men, like lobbing each other. But no, it's a nice standard and it's good fun. It's very sociable.
Crusty old men lobbing each other will be the clip. So I coughed on purpose over the cozy and cozy crime because I'm not sure. I get uncomfortable with some of the genre titles with books. I think they put people off. I interviewed somebody last week and technically her book is women's fiction. Yeah. But I adored it. And I'm like, what, so should I not read that because I'm a man? So how do you feel about cozy crime?
Well, yeah, I have misgivings. I think it's a publishing term. I understand it. It's a marketing term. You need to pigeonhole books in order to sell them. I think, like with any novel, no matter what the genre is or the subgenre in this case, you're just trying to write the best novel you can possibly write. And I think good crime novels transcend those kind of easy kind of categorizations. So I don't love the term cozy crime, but I accept it. Like my book is a gentle murder mystery.
And that's useful, isn't it? Because some of the stuff I get sent, and I know you're widely read as well, it's quite brutal, some of it.
Yeah.
You need to let people know yours isn't. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a way of doing that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but like, like with any book, you finish it ages ago before you even start promoting it, and talking about it. But you're very proud of it and you've put so much time into it. You've invested so much energy into it and you're very, you love all your characters and, you really want to talk about it. So, you just have to get over that. Like it's, that's like it's in the lap of the gods. Do you know what I mean? You can't control what people think. For me, like it's a funny murder mystery. The emphasis is very much on fun and entertainment. It's different to previous novels I've written, which are very dark and nihilistic.
So I was going to apologise to you because I haven't read your first two, and for which I apologise. But those who had have told me, they were quite dark.
Yeah, they were really. So like this is a big turnaround for me in a way. Like I've changed. Like my first novel was called The Talk of the Town. I wrote that as far back as 1997.
Wow.
And it was very much a coming-of-age story, a very troubled teenager in the border region in Ireland. And, it was kind of one of the themes. I think you could say, it wasn't called this then, but toxic masculinity, I would say.
Okay.
So it was in that area. It was very dark. There was a crime involved in the novel. And I read it recently. Like, I went to this literary event that a friend of mine was actually hosting, and he asked me to read from it. He always loved that book. And I read it, first time I picked it up in 20 years, and I was shocked.
Oh, were you?
Shocked. No, I was laughing. It was funny, in my opinion. It was extremely funny, but extremely bleak.
Okay.
And I was just shocked by how cynical it was and nihilistic. Like, it was a very angry young man who was on the road to nowhere fast.
But I'm trying to think back to late 90s. Where were you in your career at that point? Had you started to break through on telly, or were you still doing stand-up?
Just about. So I arrived in London in 1994 in my late 20s as a budding stand-up comedian, and that was really where my horizons were. Very soon after that, I got my first TV role, like Father Ted, and very soon after that, I wrote this novel, sort of based on short stories that I'd brought with me to London. That I had been working on in my sort of earlier 20s. I had maybe 5 short stories.
So it wasn't necessarily reflective of where you were in the late 90s, but maybe where you'd been 5 years ago.
Yeah, and of course, like, it's not autobiographical or anything like that, but it was very much based on the kind of thing I grew up with, like I suppose in the 80s, going to nightclubs at the age of 17, 18, and just witnessing the violence and the frustrations that young people sort of had. I always kind of refer to it as howling at the moon. So, like, there come a time at the weekend on a Friday night or a Saturday night when suddenly everyone's howling at the moon.
Yeah.
And they're getting in trouble and they're making terrible decisions. And, so it was kind of in that area. And this guy had a girlfriend that he simply couldn't relate to, or he didn't understand. And, and she was leaving him. And, so it was kind of like a terrible weekend in this guy's life, where he just goes on, he just runs amok, but he's reflecting on his life to that date. It's kind of stream of consciousness kind of stuff.
So, having revisited that recently and shocking yourself, this must have been a lovely process to write, must it?
Exactly. You see, there you go. And then, my second novel, which arrived a full 25 years later, was in a similar vein. It had a similarly serious kind of theme, again set in the border region of Ireland, but in the post-Troubles era.
Okay.
So it was about the price of peace. And that was more, there was a crime novel definitely trying to burst out of that one. That was called Brouhaha. For me, that's a really funny novel, but again, quite dark and dealing with quite difficult, sensitive subjects. About bringing paramilitaries in from the cold and stuff like that, and Omerta and all these things.
Oh, right, God.
Oh, yeah. But really good. For me, again, really, really funny. And there was definitely a crime at the heart of that. There was a missing person and some new evidence had come to light, and there was a race against time to try and find out what happened to this person. So that kind of brought me to this third novel, A Plot to Die For. And in the meantime, I had done Death in Paradise, which is the equivalent of Cozy Crime in TV land. And the publisher that I was having chats with at the time was saying, well, would you consider writing a gentler murder mystery? Like, you clearly have dark impulses there. Would you be able to rein in the profanity and the explicit sex and the gore and the violence? And I was going, I don't know. I don't know if I can. But I'll try. I will definitely try. And I started this process, and I started kind of plotting out. I started, thinking about characters, first of all. And, sort of, sketching out a loose plot. And I loved the process. I never assumed for a moment that I could write, proper crime novels. I have a lot of respect for crime writers. I've always read crime fiction. So, I didn't jump at it. I didn't jump right in. I spent time in it before I committed, like a good month or so, like really thinking about it. But then, once I had the characters and, the loose plot, I just tore into it. And at that
so talk to me about character. When you say, so the characters came first?
Yeah.
So what, if you're not actually writing prose, are you kind of got a pad of A4 and you're going, right, I've got 2 coppers, I need a publican, how are you doing that? Yeah,
so the way it kind of came about for me was, the book is called Plot to Die For. The character I came up with, the main character is a celebrity TV gardener who's had a great career in Britain on radio and television.
Yes.
And
this is Finn, we should say.
This is Finn. Yeah. He's early 40s, bit of a crossroads in his life. His marriage is probably not going great. His career is maybe just stagnating a little bit. He's not happy. He's uncomfortable with his modest level of fame. And, his mother has had a bad fall back in Ireland, back in the lovely small Irish town of Abbeyford. And he has to go back to help with her care. So that's sort of where, the starting point for the novel.
Now, can I just pick up on a couple of things you said there, if I may? Firstly, am I right to understand that model, not the career stuff, but going back to look after your mum, did that model something that you had had to do?
Yeah, I mean, it did, yeah, to some extent. I could very much identify with the character of Finn for a start. And my mother did have a very bad fall about 4 years ago when I was thinking about writing a crime novel in this kind of more gentle genre. And we didn't expect her to survive. Oh, right. And she spent a full 5 months in recovery, kind of delirious. And we didn't think she was going to come out of it. But she did. She made a miraculous recovery, thankfully. But during that time, with my brothers and sisters, we all got to know her really, really well and spent an awful lot of time with her. And you just realise what a terrible son you've been for the previous 20 years, where you're just taking it for granted. Like, she's just mammy and she's always going to be there and, not ask for anything. And so it was a really special time, actually, spending all this time with her and getting to know her as a person, as a human being, rather than just as a mother. So that was a very rewarding time. And, I was trying to think of an amateur detective. Mm-hmm. My first thought was, wouldn't it be great if it was an actor playing a detective on a show in the Caribbean and a real murder happens on set and he has to solve the real murder as his character, the detective, solves the murders on screen. But that was a bit too close to home. Yeah. So then I thought, well, a good amateur detective combination would be this mother-son thing, which was a relationship I was celebrating at the time. Yeah. And for me, that's one of the big themes of the book. You got the funny, you've got the ingenious murders, you've got, genuine thrills and spills, murder, mystery, but you've also got these themes of home, family, community, and fame as well.
Well, I really liked Moore. We'll get onto the fame in a minute, but I really liked Moore and their playoff because ostensibly she kind of is very canny, and we expect her not to be because she's been unwell, but she almost knows the most out of any of them, really, doesn't she? Yeah,
she's a bit of an oracle. Yeah, and she was a district health nurse in her day, so she. So she knows everything. She's been inside everyone's home. She knows their family histories. She knows their medical histories. And she's sort of enjoying a glorious sort of Indian summer. Something was unlocked after her fall. She lost her inhibitions, which I think makes her a really interesting, fun character, actually. She's a really weird relationship with her own husband, Finn's father. Mm-hmm. which I quite enjoy as well. But I think, so their relationship is quite funny. And she's got a carer called Happiness. Yes. And Happiness is, she's very formidable. She's got a great arsenal of put-downs and withering looks. And she hates Finn from the off. Yeah. She thinks he's a terrible son. And Finn senses this very quickly. So she's in tow as well. So you got Finn now, you got his mother, you got Happiness. And then you've got this wonderful local person called Aoife, who is a school teacher in town with really big roots in the town. And she's very passionate about the students in her care, but she's also very passionate about the welfare of the town. That she's got great pride in the town, and she is a leading light in the local Tidy Towns campaign, which again, we can talk about in a minute, how important that is to the whole plot. So these four become an amateur detective team, basically. I had quite a crush on Aoife. Yeah, she's fabulous. I think that's testament to your writing, if I'm honest. Thank you. Because I don't often fancy fictional characters, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I found myself reading it going, calm down, lad. Yeah, I think she's just wonderful. She's a force of nature. She's persuasive. She's funny. She's got a great sense of mischief. Yes. She's very adventurous. Finn is kind of cautious. He doesn't want to get involved. He's come home to help look after his mother. He doesn't want to be roped into A, the Tidy Towns. He doesn't want a busman's holiday, and B, he does not want to be investigating murders that he's not even sure if a murder has taken place. But she kind of cajoles him into it with her charm and her charisma. Yeah, she's very headstrong and she knows what's going on, takes no nonsense. So let's talk, well, first of all, I want to say congratulations, right? Because Abbeyford, which is where this is set, and there hasn't been a murder there for 42 years, Xavier tells us, who I loved as well. I thought he's so good. Him and Valerie, they're the two coppers in this book. And Valerie's she's had a promotion that Xavier thinks he should have got. And there's a really lovely interplay between those two. And
I was so convinced. I thought, Abbeyford, this sounds beautiful. You know what? Me and the missus would love Abbeyford. That you made me Google it, and you've made it up, you bugger.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist. I was looking forward to going there for a weekend.
Sorry,
well played.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, like, you know, with this book being all about sort of entertainment, I suppose it becomes a little heightened in a way. It's a composite of some of my favourite towns. I wanted like a town far from the border region where I grew up, where I set my previous 2 novels, which, you know, with the best will in the world, they're, like, I love growing up there, don't get me wrong, but because of the proximity to the Troubles and because it's on the border, there's a long history of smuggling. You have, you know, people are very reserved by nature and very dour, and there's a real gallows humour, and there is an omerta kind of that goes on there. So I wanted to set it in the sunny southeast of Ireland. So I looked around towns down there, Waterford, New Ross. You know, if you want to bring your wife to those places, you know,
they're lovely.
They're very like Abbeyford.
Yeah.
And you know, so I wanted a place with a river. I wanted a place with a lovely history, like, which is in a sense the microcosm of Irish history, like with a great Anglo-Norman heritage, with lovely old mill buildings, lovely old grain stores, a little bit of tourism, a little bit of light industry. You know, so just a kind of a lovely town, but maybe a bit down at heel, you know. So Abbeyford, just, I love the world building. That's one of my favourite things about writing novels, is creating a world from scratch. You know, a town with a proper, I could draw you a map of Abbeyford now. Yeah. And then peopling it with great characters, with colourful characters. Yeah. Believable, but like, you know, colourful and diverse, a diverse range of voices.
What's a dry shite, Ardal?
Yeah, that's a brilliant word now. That's a word you need to know if you are going on holidays to Ireland. A dry shite.
I don't want to be called it, do I?
No, you definitely don't want to be called it. Like, it is the worst thing you can be called in Ireland, a dry shite. It means you're no fun. It means, which is almost unpatriotic. Like, it means you're a disgrace to your country and your family if you're a dry shite. And if you are called one, you have to take a good look at yourself. You know, why am I being called a dry shite? It just means you're not joining in the crack. So it's a brilliant catch-all kind of term of abuse in Ireland.
Very good. The other term of abuse that made me laugh comes from Happiness. And you've already mentioned that she's Nigerian. And she calls Finn a Dundee.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know this, but you then very kindly explain it in the prose. How did you discover a Dundee as a term of abuse?
Well, I mean, I had this Nigerian character who's kind of based on some people I know as well. And she is, I was trying to think, like, you know, she hates Finn and she's always putting him down. And what would she call him? So I kind of spent a lot of time researching, like, terms of abuse in Nigeria. Googling, yeah. I'm a very good Googler. And one of the things I came across was it was actually on the BBC website, that I think it was Dundee United visited Nigeria on a football tour decades ago, and they were abysmal. I mean, they were probably on the tear or something, you know, and probably enjoying themselves too much. And so they went down in legend as being, you know, a bunch of idiots. And to this day, an idiot in Nigeria would be a Dundee.
Yeah.
You big Dundee. So she calls him a Dundee.
That really, really made me laugh. So you mentioned Death in Paradise. I'm going to read some bits of this in the interview, but there's been no context offered, so there's no spoilers, because I always say this, but I want you to come to this fresh in the way that I did, so that you maximise your enjoyment of this book. The pair of them settled down to watch an episode of Death in Paradise. Somebody had fallen off a balcony. Were they pushed, or did they jump? Finn had to smile when his mother insisted, as she always used to do when they watched detective shows when he was a boy, that they all write down who they thought the murderer was. Finn, much to Happiness's disgust, guessed correctly. My question is, did you always guess correctly when they handed you the scripts?
Of course I did.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, certainly after the 10th one I did. I kind of twigged the formula by then.
Right.
But I was always like that from a kid. You know, like, that's the pleasure of detective fiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 4 or 5 suspects. And
I didn't guess in here, by the way.
No. Well,
I was nowhere near it.
Good.
Yeah.
But they always say that, you know, in retrospect, you have to be able to go,
Correct, yeah, it's fair dealing.
You can't just cheat the audience by bringing in some new character at the end. And, you know, so you have to plant the seeds, and you have to, you know, they have to have very strong motivation from the start.
Correct.
And you know, so when you next read the book, Phil,
I should be able to work it out.
Yes, you'll see why the person
did you have to or do you choose to? I had this conversation with Anthony Horowitz. I'm kind of obsessed with this because I think it's the cleverest thing in the world to be able. I know you say there's a formula, but you've got to make sure it's not so formulaic that we can all guess it after 10 pages, right?
No.
So did you have to go back and plant extra clues? Do you trust anybody enough? Did your wife, for example, was she your first reader? Who's your first reader who says, well, I don't know if you've given me enough clues there? Or, that's perfect.
Yeah, my wife was probably my first reader, and she reread it. It's a terrible thing to ask anyone to do, by the way, to read a work in progress. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But she was fair enough, and she read it, and then, of course, my editor as well would have seen earlier kind of drafts. But like people ask me like, how many drafts did you do? And I don't know how to answer that. It's either like 3 or 1 million, because you're constantly rewriting. Like when I start,
so you rewrite as you go.
Oh, I write like.
Because some authors don't, Ardal. You see, some just bang it out, get to the end, and then if they tell you, I had a writer in recently who'd done 9 drafts, and she said she changed something each time, but she wasn't changing on the hoof. But Michael Connolly, he changes on the hoof.
I change every day, every hour. I'm constantly revising and taking notes as I'm writing, because I need to go back to that. So you're constantly adding into the mix. So it's like, I suppose, I don't know, cooking. I don't cook, so I don't really know, but like you're constantly adding in other little bits. And then, yes, once you read it through, you go, okay, I need more of this at this point. And, I'm coming from a stand-up background as well. So,
yes.
So in stand-up, you have callbacks.
Yes.
And that's one of the great pleasures of stand-up, is you plant little mines early on and you detonate them later. And so I'm constantly doing that. At the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, how can I plant more little seeds? So you're fertilizing it all the time. And then hopefully, there's lots of beautiful payoffs for the readers. I
was going to ask you, I saw you do stand-up years ago. I've not seen the recent tour. And you're very much a storyteller, but within the storytelling, there are set-up punchline jokes, aren't there, within? So you're almost using 2 structures, really, for your comedy. When it comes to writing something like this, how different a discipline is it?
It's the same in the sense that you're sitting at a desk for hours, looking at a blank page,
trying to be funny,
hating yourself, despairing,
really?
And full of self-doubt.
Even now?
Oh, of course, yeah. You start every day like racked with self-doubt.
There'll be so many people will find that reassuring, because I think there's a perception that when you get to a certain level of success, that people go, okay, I know how to do this now.
No, I like. Not at all. I mean, you're a bit more confident maybe about your ability to perform and to sell something on stage, but you've always got that doubt. And then with stand up, like you're always trying to distill everything down to its essence. So no matter how big an idea you have or serious a subject you want to discuss, you're trying to boil it down to a joke, basically. Which is like an immature way to live your life in lots of ways, but it's it is a vocation. Whereas with a novel, you're expanding everything. I love having the 2 things together. Depending on your mood, you get the instant gratification with stand-up. You don't get that with novel writing, but you can use your stand-up skills in novel writing, because as a stand-up, you have to be compelling. That's your main obligation, is to keep the audience's attention. And therefore you can't drop the ball. So you're always editing in real time as a stand-up. And I think if you can bring that into your writing, that's a good thing.
But when you edit with your stand-up, the difference is that the audience are helping you. You do, presume, work in progress shows, don't you?
Yeah.
And if a joke bombs or if a section bombs, you think, well, I might need to leave. I mean, just on that, how many times would you do that before you kick it out?
Hundreds of times.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. I mean...
But you can't do that with the novel writing, can you? You can't
not really.
Go and read it to somebody at bedtime and see if they drop off.
Not really, but then like, to be honest with you, even with the work in progress, is like, before the audience knows what's working and what isn't working.
What a gut feeling.
Yeah, gut feeling. Like I wouldn't even try my new stuff out if I didn't think it was going to work, if I didn't think it was going to land. So, I suppose experience has told me after decades, I know when I go into a small club with my work in progress, I already know that 90% of that's going to work.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So and I hope that's similar with the writing. Like when you're writing, you're thinking, I hope I'm not losing them. I don't think I'm losing them. Oh, maybe I'm losing them a bit now, so I better stop here, cut, and move on with the plot. Don't get too sidetracked down that little blind alley or there's lots of red herrings in the novel.
Yeah. Because they're supposed to be.
And there's lots of digressions. I read a lot of crime fiction, and I don't love the ones that are really slickly written sometimes, because I don't think they breathe enough. And I know, there are some readers who who want a very snappy, crime novel with like cliffhanger and after every 3 pages, short chapters, little bite-sized chunks they can read on the train or the bus on the way to work. So I get that, and I get why those novels are so popular. But I couldn't write a novel like that. Like for me, even though I'm writing a genre novel, it has to be the best novel in the world. It has to be the best possible novel I can write. So it has to have, lots of themes in it. It has to have, points of view, a worldview. It has to, you've got to be processing real feelings on the page. The relationships have to feel real. The relationship between Finn and his dad has to be real. The relationship between Finn and his mum has to be real. The blossoming will they, won't they romance with Aoife has to be real. All of those things are important, and you have to be very careful with them. So while you're very conscious that the clock is ticking and you've got to keep the momentum going, and you've got to have a couple of murders, and you.
Yeah, sure. What you're saying is if there's not enough context, you can't bond with the characters.
No.
And ultimately, it's the character. It doesn't matter if it's a novel or a TV show. You've got to love the characters. Otherwise, the story's inconsequential. Let's talk about fame and celebrity within the context of the novel then, if that's all right. Again, another bit just to read to you here. Right, and by the way, just for the record, I'm not a celebrity. Finn couldn't let it lie. He tried to be blasé about this bugbear of his, but could hear the strain in his voice. I'm just a common gardener. I mean, an ex-gardener, actually, not one of the... He searched his brains trying to come up with a surefire, incontrovertible celebrity. One of the Rolling Stones. It's so lovely, that, because he's so fired up that he can't get the analogy quite right. Yeah. But I wondered, I know it's the obvious question, and I apologise if you're bored of being asked it, but how much of that view of celebrity do you share? Because the thing is, well, first of all, let me ask you, what are you? If I met you and had never heard of you, what would you say you did for a living?
Well, I'd say I'm an artist, I suppose. I don't use the word artist, but I'm an actor, writer, comedian.
Yeah.
That's what I am. I am not a celebrity.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's why I asked the question, because that word wouldn't crop up.
Yeah, I work for a living.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you create things.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing.
A little byproduct of that is a certain level of fame or celebrity. And that's how other people may perceive you. But like for me, I get up every day, I work my arse off.
Yeah.
And, some things land, some things don't. The ones that land, make people sit up and pay attention to you.
Yeah. But the trouble is you can't control that, can you?
No.
So, when you get a massive hit like Father Ted comes along, the spotlight's on you, and then all the tabloids and all the rest of it are after you. But actually, you're not hunting that out. That's the point I'm trying to make.
No, you're not. And some people do.
Yeah, some
a little more than others.
But they tend to be the ones that aren't crafting something. I don't wish to be unkind, but the ones that crave the spotlight tend to be craving it to make money from the spotlight, whereas you're making money off things that your brain has created. Yeah,
and I try and maintain that distinction. It's not always easy, because of course your head is turned. Like, I'm as weak as the next person, and your head is turned sometimes, and there are advantages and doors can open for you in
which you exploit brilliantly in this novel.
Yeah.
Finn can make progress with the case that they're investigating because people are enamoured by the man off the telly, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people will confide in him. People, he had a confessional radio show on Radio 4, and he's a good listener, and he's curious, and he's observant, and he's a little bit taciturn. So he's one of these people, he's kind of impassive, so people will approach him and will tell him their life stories. I've had that experience. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I have indeed, yeah. Even in the shops or on the streets near me, strangers will come up to me and tell me stuff. Which is...
Really?
Yeah, they will, yeah, in the park when you're walking the dog.
I think he's a nice bloke off the telly. We trust him.
Yeah. For whatever reason. Maybe it's just that degree of separation. It's not their family member. It's not their doctor. It's not their priest.
But it's someone they recognise.
Yeah, who was a priest.
Can we breach that trust? What's the best thing you've been told by a stranger?
Somebody took out some legal documents and started showing me the hassle they were having over I can't even remember what it was now, to be honest with you. But yeah, I've had people discussing their domestic problems with me.
See, I get that if you played Ironside or something, but
yeah.
Are you known for playing a lawyer? Have you got any legal? No, that's what I thought.
But they'll just tell you stuff, and it's interesting. And I thought that would be a good starting point for a reluctant detective, like that people will tell him stuff. For reasons that become very clear in the novel early on, local people won't speak to the police.
Yes.
You need that. Like, this is one of the things you need to do if you're writing these cozy crime novels with amateur detectives. There has to be a good reason why people won't go to the police.
They can get away with it, and the police aren't making any headway.
That's
very, very clever. Is it true that you once sat next to a guy on a flight who was watching one of your TV shows and then turned to you and spoke to you in a way that he had no idea it was you?
Yeah.
Does that freak you out?
That that alarmed me. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. So he watched 3 episodes of My Hero, and after about an hour, we start talking like we are now. And he said, "So what do you do?"
And what did you say?
Well, I was going,
Did you just point to his iPad?
No, I didn't. I didn't know. I just said, like, I do comedy and a bit of acting, and then he said, "Have you ever been on TV?" And I went, well, yeah, I've been in a few sitcoms. And he went, oh, and then
anything I'd have seen.
Yeah, well, he genuinely said to me, he said, "I'll keep an eye out for you." So I never put him out of his, You
didn't?
No, I didn't tell him. I just let him, which is fine, but it did worry me slightly. Am I that lacking in charisma?
If it was me, there'd have been a part of me going, is he messing with me?
Yeah, well, I did think that at the beginning, but he was one of these very sincere Americans. Very, he was genuine. But so I had to have a look at myself that evening. All right, like, I'm a shadow of my former self, obviously.
Another bit here I wanted to put to you. Finn could only laugh himself. Small town Ireland would quickly find a way to pull you back down to earth. Not that Finn was unmoored in any way. At least he didn't think he was. He didn't have any notions about himself, did he? Now, that stuck to me of someone who's maybe experienced small town Ireland, not necessarily in the best of ways.
Well, I mean, the notions are a big thing in Ireland.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, himself is for a start.
Yeah. It's like in Australia, you've got the tall poppy syndrome.
Right.
In Ireland, you've got notions. And, you just don't have notions. There's the notion police. I think I mentioned them in the novel. Like, basically, that's everyone in the community is a member of the notion police. So everyone's watching out for everyone else's notions. Who do they think they are, this particular person or this family.
So did you get some of that when it blew up here and then you go home? Did you get
a little bit. You see, that's kind of like it's a double-edged thing because some people are impressed by celebrity or by someone off the telly, and some people aren't. And the ones that aren't often will go out of the way to show you how unimpressed they are.
Right.
So you do get that a little bit. And they're not shy in coming forward about that. And the other thing is, like, no matter how approachable you are or sociable you are, some people, like, there is a little bit of a force field around you because of this, they assume that that because you're on the telly or whatever and you've left home for many years, decades, that maybe you have notions or whatever, and then you're at pains to kind of prove that you're not. So there is this kind of little bit of an uneasy stand-up. I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably most of that's probably in your own head.
Yeah, right.
Realistically, but no, I have a complicated relationship with small town Ireland. Like, I love it. Yeah. It wasn't hard for me to celebrate it.
Right.
I never, like, so I lived in London for 10 years. Then I've lived in Dublin for the last 20 years, more or less. But I continued to visit my small town, and particularly as my parents got older, I was spending more and more time up there and really getting to know it again and really getting to appreciate it in a way that I didn't as a kid. You can't wait to get out of your small town when you're a kid, but I look back on it now and I see the value of community. The strong bonds that people have, how people rally around each other.
Yes.
When murders happen in the town, the community rallies around to try and solve the murder because it brings shame on the town. Particularly the second murder gets a lot of attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to reveal how many.
I certainly don't want to reveal.
No, how many though? That's why I've not mentioned that so far. I didn't know if you wanted to say there were.
No, I don't mind saying that there will be other murders, but or murder. I'm not telling you how many murders, but
we sound like a panicky BBC presenter when they say other murders are available.
yeah. But no, so I have that complicated relationship with the town. Like, I really do love it now, and I appreciate.
And have your folks always lived in the same place?
Always, yeah.
So every time you go home now, it's the same place you grew up in?
They moved there in 1965, the year I was born. So I lived in that same house all my life. That's the house that I still go back to visit.
Wow.
My mum. My father passed away last month. But
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, not at all. No, I mean, he was 92 and he lived a great life.
Yeah.
But so I've been back there a lot. And one of the themes as well would be that obligation to elderly parents. So it's in there as well. You know, you're trying to put as many things into the mix as possible.
Mine watch this, so I've got to be careful what I say. But I certainly, you know, Mum will be dropping a WhatsApp or a phone call if I've not been in, say, a month. You know what I mean? And they're only down in the Midlands, so that's not, you know, I don't have to get on a plane to go back there. As you mentioned your dad, I was going to talk about your dad just a little bit, only because he was, people here might not know, but he was a very prominent politician.
That's right.
In Ireland, wasn't he? And I suppose what I wanted to ask you was what it was like growing up when your dad, who, so, you know, in my life, my dad was the fun guy. He was the one who took us to the park and played football and that kind of thing. But when your dad's in the spotlight 24 hours a day, was that tricky?
It was actually, yeah. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. I mean, you know, I was a bit uncomfortable with it. Like he was a very sincere man and he was very hardworking. Like I didn't share his politics, but I admired his convictions. Like he was a man of utter conviction. He was very religious, Catholic to his core, believed deeply in his political views, you know, socially conservative, but like a very fair person, universally respected across the political spectrum. The tributes to him when he passed away were incredible from, you know, all shades of political opinion. Mm-hmm. So like he was a good man. He was a GP before then. And so he was always on the go. Like, so he was this kind of like crazy man in many ways. Like he was just like he used to have a political clinic in one side of the house and a medical clinic in the other side of the house. And my memory of him is just running from one side of the house to the other.
Wow.
And seeing hundreds of people a day, you know, whether it was a medical issue or a political issue, whatever. So he was just available 24 hours a day. But, you know, one of the things I loved about him as a kid was before he got into politics, he used to go on call a lot. Like it was a time when doctors were always available to go on call, and he never turned anyone down. So Christmas night, Christmas Eve, whatever, he was out on calls. But as kids, you know, the only way you could get his attention was to actually go in the car with him and go and visit these houses. So that was one of my treasured memories growing up, which definitely informed my career later on. I used to get inside people's houses from an early age, 5, 6, 7, all the way up 10, 12. 14, you know, you're in these people's houses, you're seeing people in all sorts of extreme situations, you know, poverty, you know, medical issues. Like, so it was fascinating to a kid, you know, to a wide-eyed, impressionable child to see all this up close.
Do you think the performer in you comes from your dad? Because politics is a performance, isn't it, of a type?
Kind of, like, it definitely, you know, it was definitely a precedent for putting yourself out there. He was actually a shy man, and he wasn't the best orator in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but he just put himself forward. Like, he believed in what he was doing, and he absolutely just shoved himself forward. So for me, who was also a shy person, you know, I'd seen that it's possible, that it's not the end of the world if you get up there and, you know, and fail.
Because you can give it another go and give it another go. Yeah. It's a lovely lesson to learn.
But I was uncomfortable with his politics. Like when I was a student, you know, my politics were student politics.
Of course.
You know, I was protesting against him and his.
Oh, were you?
Well, you know what he stood for. You know, particularly on the social issues like, you know, divorce and abortion and so on. Like, so that was tense. But you know, there was always healthy debate in our house. Like we never fell out over anything ever. He was a very fair man, and you know, he'd never give up. He'd never cede ground or anything. You know, when it came to debate. But, like, to be honest with you, the best thing for both of us was me moving to England.
Was it really?
Really, yeah, absolutely. Like, I was doing comedy. It was completely at odds with what he was doing. You couldn't be taken seriously as a kind of a, you know, a comedian. And you know, when your father was a high-profile politician. And likewise, it was very embarrassing for him having a mere bohemian as a as a child.
When we discussed the fame aspect that you've put into the novel, I didn't discuss with you, and I should have done. Finn's wariness around journalists. He's quite wary around the press, and there's a very funny scene in the place where he's got lodgings. I'm dancing around this for obvious reasons, and I wondered Well, I know that you share that because I saw you on the Late Late Show with Patrick Keelty.
Yeah.
One of the stories you told Patrick is in the novel, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose when it came to that side of it, like I was on very sure ground. So I did, I suppose, lean into my own experiences a little bit for some of his character background and so on. Yeah, I mean...
Because that's tricky, isn't it? Because this is being filmed. So if you're only listening to this, you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch this. You can see very clear when Ardal's joking and when he doesn't mean stuff. But I think in the printed written form, it's much easier to grab a sentence.
Well, I just remember, I remember doing, like, for example, I remember doing an interview with, it was with a women's magazine, I can't remember which one it was, and it was a very fluffy interview, kind of a Q&A kind of thing, and one of the questions was quite cheeky, and she asked me, the journalist asked me, like, do you ever take drugs? And instead of saying no, like I should have said, I don't, and I don't approve of them, I said, yeah, I love drugs. I think everyone should take them, and you should probably put cocaine on your cornflakes or something like that. Flippant, stupid, facetious.
Yeah.
But, that was fine. A couple of months later, it becomes the banner headline on the Irish edition of the Daily Star. Father Ted Starr, drug shame, in huge writing with a big gormless picture of me as Father Dougal. So, I learned a sobering lesson that day. In interviews, you got to be cautious and you got to be wary because you don't know when your words will be taken out of context.
But were you just trying to be funny or were you bored?
I was just trying to be funny. Oh, right. I was literally I thought we were having a jolly conversation and I was also, I suppose, a little bit peeved by the cheeky, mischievous kind of question.
Yeah. So I'm a trained journalist, so I can spot when other journalists are doing it. You can see at press conferences. In fact, there's a bit in your book where he gets a leading question when he's in that hostelry, because you can tell that the journalist wants him to say, it's this, and that gives you your top line. Yeah. That's a quite common trick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm barely conscious that I'm doing that in the novel, actually.
Oh, really?
Because,
okay.
Yeah, but I think
that probably stood out to me more because of my background.
Yeah, no, so that's interesting. But absolutely, when I was writing Finn, I was writing with a great deal of confidence because, a lot of Finn's thing is something that I could definitely relate to and something that I definitely experience. I'm stopping short of saying Finn is based on me. He isn't. He's based on lots of different people, but I'm able to lean into, that relationship with the media, for example, that relationship with fame. I can definitely, absolutely give Finn all that.
But I mean, are you green-fingered at all? Because there's some. I mean, I highlighted some of the Latin plant names in here. Bloody hell, you've done your due diligence, haven't you? Christ. I mean, some of them I had to just copy and paste into my notes because let me find one. I'll have a run up at it. Right, Acer palmatum atripurium. Did I get close?
I haven't a clue. I don't know. I am not a green-fingered.
But there's loads of those, and I'm reading it and I'm thinking, the danger is that someone who is green-fingered reads that and goes, he's got that one wrong. So you must have had to check them to within an inch of their lives.
Well, I did as far as I could, yeah. I was very worried about being caught, out of season particularly. If there was plants there that just would not grow at that time of the year. I'm sure I've made mistakes. I think I've made a disclaimer at the back of the novel.
Yeah.
That all mistakes are mine. We did get some green fingers to read through it to make sure there was nothing too glaring. And there was a few things highlighted. There's a line edit that you do just before the book goes to print. And there was a few queries, like a few question marks. Would this be the case? Did this happen? I am not pretending to be a gardener or an expert at all. I think this whole business of gardening gives it a real colour. The Tidy Towns thing is massive in Ireland. It's a nationwide campaign. It's been there since the 1950s. Every town and village has a Tidy Towns committee. They compete ferociously for the national award. There's lots of planting, lots of litter collection, restoring buildings, inclusion, diversity, participation. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing in Ireland every year. But it's fanatical. Mm-hmm. And I think that just lends itself to a bit of colour and it gives Finn something to do when he's back in a small town.
Well, I'll tell you what else it did for me as a reader. I don't know if other people have said this to you, but it planted an extra seed of doubt for the crimes. Because I wasn't sure if it was a subplot or if it was a part of the main plot. Yeah. So all the while there was an extra element of intrigue for me.
Yeah, because there's a rivalry with a neighbouring town as well. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say there's a bit of sabotage. You know, people are trying to sabotage each other's efforts in terms of winning even the county Tidy Towns award. So that's going on. So that's that for me, that's a really nice subplot. But the whole thing is a really nice backdrop to it. Like there's this running thing in the town. So as they're trying to solve the murders, they're also trying to get the town ready for the judge arriving for the Tidy Towns. So that's another ticking clock that you have, which I think just gives it a little bit of momentum. But more importantly, a bit of colour, a bit of context.
Yeah. I agree with you. Xavier nodded. He rubbed his jaw. Finn could tell he was dying to open up. Special wanted to impress his old school friend with how capable he was, how accomplished. He wanted acknowledgement, respect, like most people. What's the point of knowing stuff if you can't tell people what you know? More than most people, perhaps in Finn's estimation, Xavier just wanted an occasional pat on the back. So I love that, first of all. And secondly, the question is, do you believe that none of us can keep a secret for that reason, for the reason that you've just put in the book?
Yeah, totally, 100%. 100%. Yeah, you're just bursting to tell people stuff that you know, particularly stuff that you've kind of gone out of your way to find out. Like, you want people to know stuff. I mean, look at Trump. Like, he can't not tell people what he knows.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, like...
He's breaching the Secrets Act if they have one, every day.
Every single day. As soon as he finds something out, he's straight onto Truth Social to tell people about it. So that's how Iran know exactly what's happening at all times. So I do think that's true, and I think there's a nice relationship between Finn and that cop. That I love the cop.
Well, Finn and Xavier and Valerie I mentioned earlier. I mean, I think they're fantastic. There's a spin-off in that, I think, for you.
I think so. I loved their double act. Valerie.
And how did that come to you then?
Well, you
they're
have
complete opposites, aren't they?
Yeah. I guess both of them. You're always starting with like people you sort of know. You know what I mean, and then you're kind of. Like, his Xavier's style is very much based on a friend of mine, like his kind of mod style that he has. And his love of music and stuff like that. Like, so absolutely, I have a clear vision of him. I can see him very clearly. I just love them. But I think any crime novel has to have cops as well. And then you have to figure out a way of how did the amateur team communicate with the cops?
Yes.
And the way I did it was that this guy, Xavier, is an old school friend of Finn's.
Yes.
So they hook up again and they realise they need each other. Like, Finn can't do it with his team on his own. He needs, certain information.
But also, you can't undermine the cops too much, can you? They can't be so comedic that we're laughing at their incompetence. Because ultimately, they will have to pull the bad guys in.
Exactly. So there has to be a quid pro quo there. Yeah. So, but I was delighted once I found the cops' voices, like the two DIs, or DI and DS, I think it is.
Can we say, do you think, is it too much to say why she has got the promotion and he hasn't? Are you happy to tell that story?
Yeah.
Okay, because this made me laugh out loud so hard, right? So basically, he needs a wee in the middle of a night shift, doesn't he? Yeah. So he pulls into a lay-by, sees this lorry while he's having a piss, and the next thing, there's tobacco in there and illegal immigrants and all the rest of it, right? But because he's pissing in a lay-by, he gets reprimanded and she gets the credit. Mate, that's genius.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's the first time you kind of meet them or whatever. Yeah, he tells that story. And,
And that wasn't based on anything. You dreamt that up.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I just had such fun with them. I love them. I'm already working on the second novel, and I'm already trying to find stuff for them to do. Do you know what's really clear to me in the time we've chatted is that, and I really want to make this point. I think it's important because I know you hate the word, but it's a useful word in this context. Celebrities write books, right? There are a lot of famous people in bookstores that have written books. And I think often the question for muggles like me is, well, did they write them or not? It's so clear to me, not only have you, but how much you've enjoyed. Now, I know it's maybe more obvious because your background's in writing and writing comedy, but you've really relished the plotting, the character development, the drafting. That's not annoyed you or been a labour, has it, in any way? You've kind of... No, I mean, I understand the scepticism. Yeah. Because, I have a reasonably high-profile career as an actor and comedian. Yeah. So I get it that people might be suspicious or sceptical. I'm also offended that people might think that I didn't write it. Like,
and that's because you have, you see.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
But I would bristle at it, like, simply because, like, well, first of all, I have written 2 novels already.
Yes,
First
so
one was 30 years ago. It was included in 1001 books you must read before you die. So, you know, it was critically acclaimed. It sold well. The second one got great reviews. You know, I write all my life. Franz Kafka was an insurance clerk, and he wrote 2 of the best novels of all time while he was an insurance clerk. George Saunders, a brilliant writer, like, he was a tech writer while he was writing his great short stories. But I suppose the thing with people that are in the public eye, so certainly like my mum, I'm sorry, mum, but you would say this to Ardal, right? You'd go, he's so busy. What does he want to be doing that for? Well, sometimes it looks like you're busy, and of course you're not most of the time. Like, as an actor, you're mostly unemployed. People will tell, you know, every actor will tell you that, apart from the really, you know, big ones. As a stand-up, you know, you keep ticking over, but, like, you know, I have loads of downtime. Like, you know, and of course, when you commit to a novel, you set aside like a whole year, you know, to do almost nothing else but write. So I've always written and I've always read, and, you know, I actually think I'm better qualified than anyone to write a novel, frankly.
Yeah. Well, and I, having read this and not your other 2, for which I've already apologised, I agree with you entirely. I think, you know, this is real fun. This is perfect books on the beach book. This is.
Oh, great.
If you don't see people reading this on holiday, then something's gone wrong somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Because no, honestly, I really mean that. It's really, really funny. Let's do the books on the beach stuff then. So, best holiday you've ever been on ever.
Ooh, I would say probably we went to Colombia on a family holiday. I'd watched Narcos, and I thought, yeah, we need to do that.
Whereas I watched Narcos and thought, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get beheaded.
No, my kids they were in their teens. We were getting really worried that they're going to be gone soon. We're never going to have a family holiday again. So we just got into the habit for 2 or 3 years, just before they left home, and we'd go on big adventures. And one of them was to Colombia. And it was just so exciting. I think myself and my wife, we'd never taken a gap year or anything like that. We'd never done the crazy adventures. Mm-hmm. And we did it with our kids. And we did all the abseiling down waterfalls and riding bareback across the desert, and, you know, paragliding and whitewater rafting and all that crazy stuff. And then, you know, we went to the Amazon, and like, we had near misses. I went on a hike with one of my daughters in a place called Tirona National Park, and we were attacked by howler monkeys. Like, I genuinely thought it was one of my 2 or 3 near-death experiences.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they were on you, and
and the noise is definitely, like, they're called howler monkeys because they make this deafening noise, and we thought it was a storm or something coming up, but and we got completely stuck in it. And it was just the loudest noise I've ever heard, and they were just screeching at us to get out of their territory. And we had to run. We ran for about 2 miles to get away from them. Anyway, but, like, that was all like, in hindsight, that was brilliant, a brilliant adventure. At the time, it was very scary because, you know, my daughter was with me, and you know, I was
I'd be utterly terrified.
It was terrifying.
I know, but you really make me laugh, because then you go, I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah, but it's a story. And then, you know, we had some hairy adventures in Bogota as well, the capital. But, like, overall, it was a brilliant place to go on holidays, and, you know, relatively very safe, like as safe as, you know, anywhere in Europe. You know, really, bar the howler monkeys.
And the best book you've ever read on holiday? Ever? Any holiday?
I'm not a brilliant reader on holiday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tend to read in high-stress environments. So, like airports. I read loads in the airport
being
on the way.
Being chased by howler monkeys.
Yeah, because I can't stand airports and I can't stand hanging around. And even on planes, I'm a bit of a nervous flyer. So I just bury myself in a book to shut out the world.
Sure.
So when I get to the beach, like, I'm just looking around, and I can't. And when I'm on holidays, you know, you just want to try everything, sample everything, see everything, go everywhere, visit all the attractions, eat all the ice cream, drink all the wine, you know, try all the food. So I bring loads of books. Like, I have huge ambitions, but I don't always read them. Now, having said that, my last holiday when I was we went on a family holiday again with my grown-up kids now for the first time after 5 or 6 years, and that was really exciting.
Oh, nice.
I did bring Barbara Kingsolver's book, Demon Copper.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which was amazing.
Yeah. So you loved that.
Yeah.
As you mentioned your kids, there's a really nice reference to them at the back of this in the acknowledgements. In a reversal of historic roles, it is I who seek the approval of my children. Emily, Rebecca and Red are a constant source of joy and wonder to me. I really need them to like this book, in brackets. And of course, I can't thank my wife Melanie enough, not just for her love and understanding, the morning coffees and free pass to write, but for her specific commitment to this novel, her deep reading and rereading of it, her belief in it and her endless encouragement. And I just thought, I wanted to read it just because I thought, doesn't that make you the luckiest man alive?
Yeah, I think so sometimes.
It's lovely to be able to say that about your family.
To have that
it's
support,
really,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky in my job that I'm able to do these things because my wife kind of looks after everything else, so yeah, absolutely.
And are the kids impressed? Have they read it? Should I not have asked?
No. I'm not sure if they've got through the whole thing yet. I'm sure they're going to love it. They must do.
They've got to.
They've got to. Yeah. Or I'm a broken man. It's for them.
You said that you're partway through the second one.
Yeah, so I've got a good start in it.
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying it. So the same 4 central characters will still be solving crimes.
Great.
We'll have the same cop duo. Some of the lesser characters from the first novel will be a bit more prominent in the second novel. Some people will die.
Okay. See, I now want to ask who's going to be. I don't want to ask who's going to die because I don't want to know. But I hope Harry's there.
Harry is still there.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. The coppers, clearly, because we've already spoken about them. Is it Anna that he lodges off?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. Well, I'm happy so far.
Yeah. No, there's some people going to be there. Yeah. Some of the lesser characters are just going to. Yeah, you're going to see a bit more of them. And then there's lots of new characters. There's a bit of a horse racing theme going on here. There's a racing syndicate that we meet at the beginning.
Great. And I know I've seen you in other interviews say how much you love conjuring ways to kill people. But I would have thought the challenge for you is not to make them too macabre, given your background. Yeah,
I mean, you're just trying to come up with good ways of bumping people off. Like that is again one of the pleasures. Like it's very therapeutic, actually.
Take all your anger out on a fictitious death.
I mean, you don't want them to be too outlandish either. Like and I'm probably a little bit guilty of in this book sometimes just like being a bit far-fetched. You don't want it to be too far-fetched. I do my research. Like there's one murder in it that technically. Like, I definitely don't want to give this one away, but, I did consult somebody about all the possibilities and the mechanics of it. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
I'm satisfied that it is plausible.
Yes. Because you have to make sure that some people aren't caught up.
Yeah. So I'm really happy with that one. So that's a challenge. That's a technical challenge to try and come up with interesting murders. Like my first murder is pretty conventional, but it's that's fine, and people will understand why that's fine after a while, hopefully.
Yeah.
But so that is the thing. It's trying to come up with really good murders. Like from working on Death in Paradise, like that was the whole point of that show, was coming up with like kind of how did they do that? How did they pull that one off? So I'm very influenced by that in terms of the type of murders I'm trying to come up with.
Yeah, okay, good. Do you know, Jerry Sadowitz I saw live once. Have you seen Jerry Sadowitz?
Yes.
He said the perfect way to murder specifically a celebrity is that you write to them to ask for a signed photo, right? And he said, to save you going to any trouble, I've enclosed a stamped addressed envelope. He said, and you lace it with arsenic, and then they've licked it and posted it back to you. So not only have you killed them, but they've sent you the evidence back.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I obviously can't. I want to ask you what you've come up, but I can't because it's going to be in the next book, so it's a redundant question. I can't ask you the best one yet because you're still dreaming up the best way of bumping people off, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I think like this it did start during my last season on Death in Paradise. I was always trying to come up with plots, and I came up with one of my murders in this novel. Forgive
my ignorance. Did you have any co-write on that? Or?
No, I never did. But I often thought, if I did write an episode, what would what would be my plot, and so that sort of thing always stuck with me. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, because I've really enjoyed talking with you. And it's a really lovely book.
Yeah.
I think if you're having a bad time, you could read this and feel better.
That's a beautiful compliment. I'm putting that on the cover of the paperback when it comes out next year. But it's a brilliant podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure chatting to you.
Oh, man. I'm enamoured that you came on. I really am. It's Ardal O'Hanlon, and the book is called A Plot to Die For, and is out right now. And in fact, we recorded this last week, so there's every chance that by the time you watch this, he's number one.
Some chance.
No comment. Listen, I need you to do me a favour. I don't quite understand algorithms, but can you please follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon, whichever audio one. And then when you do the same with the YouTube channel, because then you can help us to manipulate the algorithm, and then you get me to number one. And then who knows? We might both be number one, and everyone will be very happy. I'll catch you soon.